Good morning, and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. You need to bear with me till we get the studio kind of set up right, because I didn't realise that the morning sun would be shining so brightly the way it does through the window, and it's completely blinding me. So, yeah, I've not got any shutters on this window. There's a little bit of shade. Go over there, but then it'll look too dark. That's just a mayhem. Anyway, the Celtic board meeting last night went spiffingly well, as they say. Some people will say that it kind of went as expected. People thinking that they were going to get a bit much from the board. Well, the way the board see it is they're running everything fine. The board are not accepting the information that I have so far. There isn't an official statement being put out by the Celtic Fans Collective, but the information I have so far is the board are not accepting that the club is being run badly. They've only accepted that fan engagement and communication can be better. That's what I expected from last night, to be honest. If you want to run a political campaign, if you want to run things like a political campaign, you're playing against people who have contacts that do this thing on a national scale. On a national scale. And we are expecting to try and outmaneuver a bunch of professionals. And let's face it, for all the people that were don't you do complain about the sun when we have rain for the next 5 months, says Joseph. Let's jump into some of the comments and we'll see, because obviously this is who was at the meeting last night, the Celtic Fans Collective. There were 7 attendees. The affiliation of registered Celtic supporters clubs, there was 2. The Association of Irish Celtic Supporters Clubs, there was 2. The Disabled Celtic Supporters Association, there was 2 members. The Celtic Supporters Association, there was 2 members. The Boys Celtic, there was 1. The Celtic Trust, there was 1. The Green Brigade, there was 1. The North Curve was 1. And the North of Ireland Celtic Supporters Club, there was 2, but they're not part of the collective at all. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go forward from here. The board have got a free rein now, like they did in the last international break. I mean, Celtic know that there's not going to be anyone at Celtic Park anytime soon, so there's not going to be big demonstrations or anything like that. But where does it? I mean, it is a case of where does the collective go to here? The board members will not resign. They will not resign at all. Celtic's next game is on the 19th of October, away at Dens Park to Dundee. And then we're not back until almost the end of the month, the 23rd of October, back at Celtic Park for Sturm Graz. I don't know if the collective will go back into their silence treatment. The message that they're giving the fans is, you back the team and we'll back the business. That's basically what they're saying. Daniel comes straight in and says, if they're going to run the club, start doing it properly. More double talk, never take responsibility, keep boycotting merchandise. I've from the start said that we need to be a bit more proactive in changing the minds. And if you want, you need to, what the fan collective need to do now is they need to get the bigger, wider, and I know that they'll say, look, there was 420 signatories, but you only need to go online to see I mean, I went to a pub that I've never been to before at the weekends. No one knew me, and there was people sitting talking about the fact that the fans just need to back the team, and they need to back the team more. They've never had it so lucky. You know, there's an older part of our fan base. Yeah, Michelle, that was on the live last night. Did you not see it? It was on the screen. The new merchandise out on the 16th. Paraded at Celtic Park. So yeah, I mean, they've got that to come through the international break as well, a whole new merchandise set. But where the fan collective need to go from here is they need to be all-encompassing, and they need to get everyone on side. They need to make sure that everyone is thinking the same way. Because if not, signatories do not count for anything, says Scott. Yeah, you know it, mate. And what you will see now is the board will be hoping that this will go the same old route that things go with the Celtic support. They'll hope that the fans start a bit of a divide, because divide and conquer, it always works. The way that the makeup of the Celtic fan base, you can get a big majority of people together, but sometimes the majority that speak the loudest are not the ones that always have the biggest say. And that's the reality of the situation we are in. There's a lot of older Celtic fans that lived through the 70s, 80s and 90s when we weren't so successful. The stats don't lie. I mean, you can turn around and the sun's fucking moving again. You can think about how many trophies we've won over the last 25 years. And that's the only stat. Brendan is getting playing tips from Lou McCarry. If you were a Celtic fan and you're still here after the Lou McCarry situation, that was horrendous. Celtic fans don't know how lucky you are. If you were born from 1995 onwards, you have no idea what it really feels like. I mean, if you think that Tony Mowbray was bad, if you think that that's the worst we've ever had in the last so many years, go back to Celtic history and look up Lou McCarry as Celtic manager. It was a woeful time. And I mean bad. I'm talking what this current mob on the other side of the city was going through. But anyway, we don't want to be talking about them. Where did the Celtic fans collective go from here is the big talking point of the day, because I think that there are still a lot of people that are disillusioned with the way that... I wonder if I put that light on, it'll make it any better. No. Not a jot. No messing with the sun. And as it moves, it's going to go behind there, and then I'm going to be in the shades. Jesus. Anyway, finishing in 7th place. I don't want to even talk about it. The younger generation don't know how bad we were in the 1980s. Where did that one go to? Lou McCarry, the bad old days. It was that. Scott says the younger generation don't know how bad we were in the 1980s, and they don't. And yes, there is a bit of entitlement, and we have been spoiled over the last 10 years. You could say, yeah, a 10-year period. We've been blessed with the type of football that we watched. We were blessed with the type of football that Brendan Rodgers brought to Celtic his first time round. We were not so blessed when he left. We weren't so blessed when we lost the 10. But there was a lot of teams that were going for 10 in a row that season that didn't get it. And the COVID year had a lot to do with a lot of things. But then we were blessed when Ange Postecoglou came along. And yes, we have taken a step backwards. Yes, the last transfer window was a shambles. Yes, it caused us... It'll be interesting to find out today if they spoke about the transfer window or if they just spoke about the way that the club is being run. There hasn't been detailed. Everyone's been kind of sworn to silence, and there seems to be we don't know where we're going from here. I think they should just come out and just tell us, just give us the minutes of everything that was said, lay it on the table, as good or as bad as it may come across from the Celtic fans collective. They need to put every piece of information out that was said by them, that was said by the board, so that fans can make a united decision on... I mean, a lot of people are saying sack the board, but what does that really mean? Who do you bring in? Who do you bring in that's going to run the club in a completely different way? When you run a business at that level, there's structures in place do you know, the men at the top are just the people that say yes or no to the big decisions. There are people under them that run the club and on a daily basis. You know, Chris Mackay isn't looking at every single financial bit of paper that comes in. He just gets a spreadsheet and he looks at the figures. The easiest way if they're going to do this is merchandise bans. The 90s were worse than the 80s. They were that. Good morning from sunny Tunisia, Baz. Stephen Johnson, sorry to hear about your news. Yes, we'll back our team, says Lorna. But we haven't been backing the team. This is the issue. Do you know, when you listen to the atmosphere at Celtic Park, I mean, yeah, the fans get up and make a noise, and people will say, well, that's the football. My parents lived through the 1990s era. That makes us think that you're really young, Celtic girl. I'm 53, but look, 23 says Monty. I've seen Monty, he's lying. I'm just back from the USA, and every supporters club from San Fran, LA and Vegas all had the same opinions of the board and how badly we are being run and how bad the football is currently. As fans around the world, we all have the same opinion that everything isn't going well. But Brendan Rodgers will say, look, we've got off to a not too bad start of the season. We haven't dropped too many points at home. Yes, the European form could be better, but then he'll bring in we've got a whole squad of new players. There's a whole load of new players. I'm surprised that he hasn't reiterated the fact that we needed to get players in earlier in the transfer window, because that's his go-to comment, isn't it? He also talks about He always talks about the fact that you need to get the players in early in the transfer window, and that was the biggest problem this year. The biggest issue is we didn't get them in early, Scott. But I mean, I was talking to people at the weekend as well, and you know that they do think that the club could be run better. And there was one guy I was talking to. He said there are people inside Celtic Park that should be nowhere near it. But he did say also that there are members of the hierarchy that the fans want out that do a good job. And he should know, because he worked for Celtic for 15 years until 2020. Baz, you would think there was some reason for forcing the club to be better because they saw all these bad times. I can understand why people want the club to do better. They want us to progress on a European stage. That's why Brendan Rodgers was brought back. Brendan Rodgers was brought back, and the club kind of went on a trajectory where we went into last season and we got into we automatically qualified for the Champions League. There was no... Brendan Rodgers and Celtic seemed to have this inability to qualify for the Champions League in a playoff game scenario. When we qualify automatically, it's fine. But as soon as it gets hard and we've got to be up against it, we seem to come up against teams that start their league earlier. You know, there's all these things that you know, well, maybe if that's the case, maybe that year, Brendan Rodgers goes, look, I'm sorry lads, but you're only getting 2 weeks off. We're starting back earlier because I want us to hit the ground running for the Champions League qualifier. It's the most important game of the season. That then becomes... Do you know, it's like, I don't care. A good manager will say, if you want to be at this club next year, you only get 2 weeks off. But then on international breaks, you get 4 or 5 days off. On, you know, and you've got 2 international breaks, you get a week off then. Go away with your family. Don't do no training at all. But it's paramount that we qualify for the Champions League, and it's paramount. And this has to go all the way to the top. This has to go all the way to boardroom level. It's paramount that we get everyone in early, and this is the problem that the club don't seem to understand. That this is the issue that the fans want resolved. Also, it's not just Brendan Rodgers that wants this resolved, but we're now going through a period where it's more than likely that the manager will leave at the end of this season, and then it's a case of we start all over again. whilst fans will want change this season, and it's very difficult to say, yes, this is the time that you change. It's not, for me, it's not the time to change manager. You have to let Brendan see out the rest of the season and then just see where we end up. Yes, the 90s were the worst. Lou McCarthy, don't say Joe Jordan. Don't say it. Jesus. I try not to mention Joe Jordan anymore. Him and Lou McCarthy are Celtic managers, were just in the old board. I mean, people are trying to compare. I mean, I've seen people trying to compare this board to the Whites and Kellys. And to make that comparison is absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous, because the Whites and Kellys they had business acumen, but not to the level that the current board have. We never turned over the profit that the current board had. And I don't want to be back in the current board. Don't think that this is me easing off the pressure and trying to back the current board. I'm just saying that when you see people online saying that, you know, this is as bad as the Whites and Kellys, it's not. Nowhere near it. And that's just the sad situation that we're in. We were cheated in the 90s. Yes, we were that. Let me just jump through some of these. It was great days heading into the jungle with my copy of the NTV to watch Biggins. Jesus. No chance they're not going to take accountability. They have the money, have the power, they ain't going to accept it, or any criticism or accountability. They have to accept some accountability. They have to have given Brendan Rodgers some reassurances that what happened in the summer window will not happen again, surely. Because if they haven't, you're going into the next transfer window with Brendan Rodgers one hand tied behind his back. And then it will become even clearer that Brendan Rodgers will be leaving at the end. And I think Celtic, if they do know this, I hope that they are making plans for the future. I hope that they're drawing up a list of potential managers for the next step, because we have regressed this season and we need to get back up. We need to go back up to where we were at the beginning of last season. Can Celtic do that? Can the Celtic board think of doing it? I think that we can do it. I think so. It's good to hear, Lorna. Just going through these. The 80s was competitive for Celtic, winning trophies were difficult against a strong league. It was, and maybe that's what's missing in Scottish football. Do you know, I've always said that Celtic need to, we need to increase the size of the league, because the league is far too comfortable. If they speak for the collective, then let us know what was said. There will be a statement will come out from the collective today at some point. It's just not being made official yet. They put out, what time did that come out yesterday, that email? The email came out yesterday that I got was at 11 o'clock. So you're thinking it's going to come out. It's going to come out around about the same time. But I find it hard that so little people can make the decisions for the wider Celtic support. I think it has to be the case now, where whatever happened last night in the meeting, whatever the decision was going forward, I think that it now has to go to the wider fan base and not just certain individuals within organisations. Because if you want to take the fan base together as a whole, as a complete unit, you have to include them in the next set of steps. Coming out and saying, well, we're going to go back to silent protest, I think that will quickly turn, and that will break the support. I think that they have to go down another route. If they come back out today and says, we're sticking to it, we're going to go with a 32-minute silence, I'm not too sure that a lot of the Celtic fans will go with that. You know, it's fine having 400 odd signatories, but 420 signatories, but we'll wait and see what happens. So yeah, Edward stood in the Old Jungle, so did I, mate. I stood in the Old Jungle. One of the most bizarre games I ever went to was the Celtic-Liverpool memorial game for after Hillsborough, when all the fans were mixed, and I can remember standing just outside the Jungle, and there was a Liverpool supporter and a Celtic fan, and I'm standing behind one of the old barriers, and they were standing right behind me, and they'd spent 45 minutes talking about the poll tax because there was no poll tax in England at the time, and they were talking about, why this tax was brought in Scotland, and it was going to be a bad thing for the English as well. So it was a bad thing for Scotland, and it was going to be an even worse thing for England. And they spent the 45 minutes of the game just talking about the poll tax. And I kept on turning around, and I was just a kid at the time. I was in my teenage years, and I'm thinking, this is mad. This football and politics, and people say don't involve football and politics. It's always been there. It's always been there. We're just papering over the cracks. Yeah. If the Huns were 4 or 5 points ahead, yeah, the board. I don't think the board would be removed. And who are the people that are doing decent jobs? The people that are doing decent jobs will say that, the profitability, they only care about profitability to the club. And that's what they see, and that's what the board members will look at, unfortunately. They will see that Celtic are still winning on the pitch. And let's be real here. I mean, let's look at the KPIs that they will look at. If we win 2 trophies this season, it's been a good season. But we're not 10 points behind in the league. We're not in Lou Macari territory. We're not in John Barnes territory. We're doing not bad considering. And this is what they'll look at. They'll look at the bigger picture as the club, the way that it's been ran, the profitability of the club, everything that's going well, and they have agreed. The one thing that's came out of the meeting last night is, I get this, they basically only accepted that fan engagement and communication could be better. That's what they are talking about. So that they know they need to speak to us more, and they need to engage with the fans better. But they are not accepting the club as being run badly. You may say that it's head in sand stuff. You may think that it's, they've got their head in the sand and they don't see the bigger picture. I'm sure Brendan Rodgers, I don't even think that Brendan Rodgers will want to talk about it anymore. Brendan Rodgers will say, look, whatever's going on with the fans meeting the board, that's irrelevant to me, because all I'm here to do is focus on the team, the players, and getting us playing well. And that's what Brendan Rodgers will say. So, who was the last manager to win a qualifier? Poof! That's a good question. We need full fresh approach. I was born in the 60s, says Martin. We all agree that we need a fresh approach, but does the fresh approach come at management level, Celtic? Or does it come, and I'm talking about PLC level, does the change come from there, or does the change come from, because I still think there's a power struggle. I still think that there's the Celtic management, as in Brendan Rodgers and co, and I think that they're still at loggerheads with the way that the transfer window and players coming in. And that side, the football side of the business, I think that they're still a long way off. Although Brendan Rodgers said, look, we've had discussions It's in the past. We move forward. Hopefully we all learn from it. Is that him just passing the buck? Is that him just accepting where he is at this current moment of his Celtic tenure? Because there's a lot of things that we won't get told about. Brendan Rodgers is a master of not divulging everything that's going on at Celtic, and we've got the evidence for that. We've got the evidence in the fact that he told us Kyogo Furuhashi wanted away since February. We've got the evidence. Brendan Rodgers says we knew that Daiz Maeda also wanted away since February. It's no big news, so that the club know things, the management know things, but they don't feel the need to tell the fans, and it's as simple as that, because they don't want the fans to turn against the players. But as there was not a few boys away with international teams over the summer, yeah, there was. I mean, when you look at Alistair Johnston was still playing football in the middle of July. But then this is the league that we're in. So if you want to get international players, I mean that's something for it. When you reach the top in any walk of life, you have to keep going. Exactly, mate. You need to keep going to stay there. They will not wait till everyone else catches up. Progress has to be made when you're on top. You don't stay on top long. That's very true, and that's very true. You've got to keep changing things, and generally the things that does get changed is the manager. Brendan Rodgers has said it before. It's either the manager that gets changed or the players that gets changed. The backroom staff are still there, and that's a big issue for me. Celtic pride themselves in the consistency of the processes. Kieran Tierney spoke about it. He says, when I left the club and I come back and I stepped into training, it was like I never went away. Is that a good thing? Or is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing that Celtic training is the same way as it was when Kieran Tierney left in 2019? Haven't they changed it up a bit? Is that maybe the bigger issue? And that's not down to Brendan Rodgers. That's down to the way that the club is run internally. I think there needs to be an overhaul internally somehow with the coaching and things. It's just the way that I think. I think that they need to refreshen it up. The problem for me is who was bringing manager. Any suggestions? I don't think that people are really calling for change of manager at this moment, because we're not doing too bad. The reality of the situation is, we're 2 points behind Hearts in the league. Fair dues. We could be doing better. Could be doing a lot better. But, the table doesn't lie. Kilmarnock are in third place on 10 points. We're 7 points ahead of third place team. So things aren't going that bad. And then when you look at the teams below, Dundee United on 9 points, St Mirren on 9 points, Motherwell on 8 points, Hibernian on 8 points, Rangers on 8 points, Livingston on 6 points, Falkirk 6 points, Dundee 6 points, and Aberdeen 4 points. We're not doing too bad. 2 draws have cost us, where you're thinking, that's maybe a big, it's a big issue, because Hearts are 2 points ahead and we would have been top of the table. But I'm sure over the course of the season Celtic will get back to it. Anyway, as soon as we have information coming out officially of the full agenda, still been sent nothing through, of the full agenda for the meeting last night, I will get a video done and then we'll stick the video up. The Jam Tarts game will be the one to focus on. Yep, I said that a couple of weeks ago. Fact checking before release. Yeah, they probably are fact checking before the release. Team on the park is the main thing. You're spotting, Baz, when you said the younger fans are spoilt because we lived through the 80s and 90s, especially with cheating in the 9 in a row. It was a living nightmare. It was. You've got to remember that they were paying players tax-free bonuses as to get players to come to the club. and Celtic were playing by the rules. Who picked the fans? It was at the meeting last night. Like I said, Tony, I'll get that back up. It was a collective of... Where is it? The Celtic Fans Collective made up 7 people. Can I move that over here or over there? Just get it out of fucking way. Just get rid of you, Tony. I need to go this way. The Celtic Fans Collective, there were 7 members. The affiliation of registered Celtic supporters clubs, there were 2. When it comes to the affiliation have a board. The affiliation of Celtic supporters have a board that's made up by all the clubs that are in the affiliation. So for in Scotland, you've got the affiliation of Celtic supporters. They had 2 members. So it generally would have been the 2, maybe the chairman and the secretary, I don't know, for the Celtic Supporters Association. That would... The Celtic Supporters Association, all the clubs, every supporters club in Scotland that are part of it, would have agreed to, they run the association, so they would go and attend on the behalf of the association. So it's not just random fans that they're picking out of the crowd. It is people that have an invested and ongoing interest in Celtic on a weekly basis. These are the people that are generally, when you're members of the Celtic Supporters Trust, and you're not just going to games, you're going to meetings. You know, you're talking to other clubs on a weekly basis. You're sorting out away tickets from that get given from the board. So, I mean, I fully trust the majority of the people who were there. The ones that I would put question marks over were who were the people that were attending from the Fans Collective, because I think that there are people within the Fans Collective that do have agendas. Let's say, just from a personal level. That's all I'm saying. The Celtic Disabled Supporters Association, that would have been 2 of their spokespeople. The Association of Irish Celtic Supporters Clubs, 2 guys that are obviously over here from Ireland. The North Ireland Celtic Supporters Clubs, that would have been sent out directly by Celtic. The way that it happened was, Celtic reached out to the affiliation of Celtic Supporters Trust and asked for 2 members. They reached out to the Irish Celtic Supporters Clubs, asked for 2 members. They reached out to the Disabled Celtic Supporters Association, asked for 2 members. They reached out to the Celtic Supporters Association and asked for 2 members. They then got in touch with the boys and the Green Brigade, and they asked for members for there also. And then they also asked the North of Ireland Celtic Supporters Trust. So then the invitation was given from Celtic direct to these associations. It's not just random folk, that it's people that Celtic do engage with on a weekly basis, sometimes even daily basis when it comes to... I mean, you've got to think that there are clubs in Ireland that take up 200 to 300 season tickets at Celtic Park, and this is what you're dealing with. You know, it's not people with individual tickets. You know, it is people. So anyway, that's that. Let's just see what time to get people with PLC experience to attend these meetings to change rather than the signatories. Scott, you're bang on, mate. Some of the people that are there are very political minded, and they wanted to run it. I've said for the start, I didn't agree with it being run as a political campaign, and I still don't agree with it being run as a political campaign. You can't run thing on. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think that you should fight fire with people that have got a wealth of experience at that level on a national basis. And that's the contacts that Celtic have. They have contacts with people that run political campaigns on a national basis. You can't compete with that type of thing with the campaign that we're trying to run. You have to go proper old school. You have to have people that, I mean I've ran my own company. You have to have people that have run big organisations. I mean, I was Duncan Bannatyne's sales and marketing manager, for my sins back in the day, but I wouldn't go anywhere near this. Wouldn't go near it. But anyway, what are the fans really annoyed about? Not qualifying for the Champions League, not buying top players, price of merchandise. Would you support Celtic if they didn't win trophies? I would. It's my club. Mikey boy, if Celtic went 2 years without winning anything, you would see a massive drop-off in the Celtic support at home games. It's quite good with the shadow, isn't it? Quite artistic. As the sun moves. And we've seen that through the Ronnie Dyler years. Let's not kid ourselves. We've seen exactly what the Celtic support are like through the Ronnie Dyler years. And I still say that the best time to go to football was through the Ronnie years. The togetherness with the away fans, the togetherness with all the supporters clubs, the conveners, getting tickets for away games, getting tickets for Hampden, it was so much easier. I heard there was no mobile phones or no sharp order started in the meeting. I thought you said pole dancing, Baz. Pole dancing? How would the pole dance? That was an old career. I'm annoyed at transfer dealings. Running around like headless chickens. Yeah, that's it. This board will ride the storm. Of course they will. I said this before. This will. I don't think that there's going to be massive change, and not the change that the collective want. Personally, the silence is no good. Will cause splits in the support. Let's face it. Let's support the team wholeheartedly during play and keep it simple for now. No merchandise. That's all fine, Gary. But when you listen to the atmosphere when the Green Brigade don't sing and when the boys don't sing, there's a reluctance within Celtic Park for round the stadium singing. Unless it's a chorus of "Come on, you boys in green" and the time they join in. But there is a reluctance from fans to start singing in certain sections on their own accord at Celtic Park. I mean, people have said on here, it's like if you stand up and you start trying to get a sing along, folk look at you. Fuck you down, man. Sit down. Fucking sit down. Shut up. I'm trying to watch the game here. Hey, Dan. Hey, you. Fucking shut up, you cunt. I'm trying to watch the game. That's the reality of the situation that we find ourselves in. They have nearly 30 staff in their media teams. That should have fixed fan engagement. Don't even get me about the 30 people that work for the media side at Celtic. Comments keep disappearing. Is that YouTube deleting them? It depends. It's not me deleting them anyway, because it takes me to read them. Never mind delete them, unless you're swearing. It must be YouTube. Only half dozen games, plenty of time to improve before business end arrives. Yes, it is that. Right, let me jump straight to the end of the comments. Look what happened when Don Mackay brought in a fresh approach. Yeah, he was chased out by the very men that are sitting in the seats. And I still think that the worst thing that ever happened to Celtic was Don Mackay getting chased out. And let's face it, he was chased out by the people that were sitting across the table from us last night in the fans' meeting. Do you know? And I think that was a step backwards. I want the club taken over, Baz. So the right people, obviously. But who are the right people, Monty? That's a serious question. Who are the right people? The Celtic team and stadium needs a huge investment. But who are the right people? Do you know, I don't want us to go down, I've said it before, I don't want us to go down a fan ownership collective where you get Tam that supported the club since the 60s running the convener section. Fucking shut up, you. I'll fucking tell you what's going on here. And you know, it's back to that. Is that kind of going backwards to the old Labour days of the 1980s? You know, Scargill and his troops standing up trying to demand stuff. And we all know what happened to that. They were all chased and everyone went to pot. The club is being run poorly when it comes to investment. Reference the current team, lack of addition, especially in correct positions. I'm going to play devil's advocate here, Gary, and say that the club will say, look, we've just invested £20 million in the academy. We've just invested £20 million in women's football. we've now got a platform for the academy to start producing talent going forward for Celtic, and hopefully give us that conveyor belt of younger players that will come through. We're planning for the future. That's what they will say on a professional level. They'll say that there's this £20 million investment sitting just down the road from Celtic Park that the younger players will use on a daily basis, that will be the stepping stone from B team to first team football. That's the way that they'll say it, unfortunately. International games should be a 6-week window at the end of the season. Yep, it should be that. It's international football is to maintain our levels of success going forward, says Joseph. Baz, I think that's the reason that AJ's hamstring went too much for him first time he's had that. You could say stop this old boy's jobs, but then isn't that what you would be doing if you were to bring in people that were Celtic minded? Right now, if you were to bring in certain people within the fan collective Celtic minded, and isn't that just jobs for the boys? We had an opportunity where we went down the road where we didn't have jobs for the boys. We brought in Don Mackay. That wasn't a jobs for the boys. That was a fantastic appointment. He wanted to think of Celtic on an international stage. He sat there with Ange Postecoglou and went, do you know what? We're going to do a tour of Japan. So we're going to do a tour of America. We're going to do a tour of Japan. We're going to go into all these new markets. Whoa, wait a minute here. We're Celtic. We'll decide what you do. No use to. So anyway, the manager's not been given the tools to do his job, and still grinding out results. Exactly. So you can't really slate the manager. Do you know the manager made the changes at the weekend that made the difference to the game, made the difference to us winning. Move over here now, the sun's gone, isn't it? Do you know, we've been slating the manager and been too late in his changes. The changes that he made at the weekend won us the game. Liam Brady. Jam Tarts game will be the game to focus on. Yep. And it's a game that we need to win. Total change of direction from the whole club. We're doing okay. We played Dundee before the Gorgie filth. I've spoken to a few people who want the Bobo Glint manager. My fear is that these kind of guys don't want to come and be here because of the way that we're run. Joseph says, away to Dundee and Hearts 6 points, nothing else will do. Yep. This Celtic team are very stale. Everyone can see it. Even Brendan Rodgers has said that we need reinforcements. So, we can't keep harping back to the past. Everything evolves. We're going backwards at the present. Yeah, this is true. Any changes at boardroom level 100% have something to do with the City Group. Des. That's this City Group involvement in Celtic comes from Peter Lawwell and his son at his time at the City Group. Why was there a member of the City Group up at Celtic's training base at Lennoxtown just over I think it was about 2 weeks ago now, and there was also the medic from the Scotland camp. Why were they at Celtic? Was it to see how fit Kieran Tierney was before getting called up to the international? Gaboyd says the board decided as usual. Never had to comfort zone. I'm just running through some of these comments before this. We all want the same outcome. Yeah, we do. We all want the same outcome, which is the best for Celtic. Hopefully, that's all that matters with everyone at these meetings. Nearly 25 years of Scottish domination, we've never had it so good. Until that stops, I don't think that anything drastic needs change. Any changes are needed. Keep titles coming, hail, hail. That is the case of it, isn't it? It's I mean, you do have a certain amount. You do have a lot of fans that say, "Look, as long as we're still winning, you know, we will go through windows. You can't get through." I don't think that there's any one club that gets every window 100% correct and right and perfect. It's just when we do it, we seem to do it on a grander scale than anyone else. Too many fans group moaning about the biscuits at the meetings. Jed says, I think the Green Brigade wants football in Scotland to be more like Italian football because the Ultras in Italian football have a bigger role regarding their team. You could say that it's shining on me. You see it? It's always shining on me. The sun always shines on the good. Anyway, right, sorry if I've just missed out your comments. Back to class later, everyone. Right, that has me done and dusted for this morning. Like I said, as soon as I'll just double check that there's no information being sent through officially from the Fans Collective until they put out their statement. It'll be interesting to see if Celtic put out any kind of statement at all, and until they do, we'll just have to wait and see. On that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.